Awesome. Okay. All right. So this is my 3 steps to building a 6-figure elopement photography business. And I'm very thankful that everybody is here. Let's see. Okay. So I'm Megan. I'm an elopement photographer. You might be following my Hazel and Lace business as my elopement photography business. And then I'm also the business coach. For you guys. I've got 2 dogs. I love driving down dirt roads and camping and all traveling and all that kind of stuff. And I've been shooting weddings and elopements since 2016. And a few years ago, I was able to completely pivot from weddings to elopements, but it was scary. And I spent a while basically like spinning my wheels and afraid to do that pivot to like commit to elopements only. I felt guilty about raising my prices. I didn't really know how to get over $4,000 for a while. And then I did a lot of trial and error stuff, kind of figured out what worked, what didn't. And then finally, was able to hit the 6-figure mark shooting elopements only and netting 6 figures shooting elopements only. And that was pretty freaking awesome when I figured out how to do that. So, and now I want to help you guys all do that. And if you're here, I'm assuming it's because you are busting your butt and you're working hard and you're investing in all the online courses and you're investing in styled shoots, but you still don't really, you can't quite get to that level that you want to get to yet. You want to start making real money. You want to crack that code and start making like 6 figures or even netting 6 figures. And you want to be that elopement photographer that couples are dying to work with, that can plan around your availability, that are going to fly you out to Yosemite or wherever your dream destination is. Like, you want to be that person. And yeah, a lot of people kind of get stuck in a certain spot. So yeah, I made my transition from working, well, I really shouldn't say a 9 to 5 because I was an emergency veterinarian. So I really worked like 17-hour shifts overnight and 12-hour shifts during the day. So it was really more like a 9 p.m. to like noon more type of thing. But yeah, for me to transition from that to making more money now as an elopement photographer than as a veterinarian, it took a lot of time and a lot of lessons learned. I really kind of realized what works, what doesn't work. And then I want to help teach you guys how to make that transition a lot quicker and easier than how I did it. Like, I could be way farther ahead right now if I had the resources at my disposal that you guys now have. So once I figured out how to like accomplish all of this for myself, I really started mentoring others. Being able to quit veterinary medicine was a huge thing for me. And I really it was a soul sucking job, and being able to, switch over to something where I work less, make more money, and it's like my passion and purpose in life. Like, I want everybody to experience that. So I started mentoring other photographers, and I was getting kind of the same questions and concerns over and over again, which was, for one, they wanted to know how they can make six figures as an elopement photographer. But also they felt like they were doing all the right things, but felt stuck or in a rut. And they didn't understand why it seemed like other photographers were really successful and they weren't. Again, they felt like they were doing all the right stuff. So here's why I think a lot of people get stuck, or what I've noticed is the reason why so many elopement photographers reach a certain level and then really struggle getting past that. For one, the only real education that we had for a long time was, Maddie Mae's elopement photographer course. And because that education was available, even I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this whole coaching thing for elopement photographers. They already have this course. But then I realized that really it's a shocking statistic that only like 3% of people ever really finish online courses, let alone know how to fully implement them. And that was definitely me. I mean, I've always bought every online course that's come out, and half of them have not been opened. Maybe I did a couple modules, but for the most part, I was just not the type of person that could finish online courses. I need my hand held a little bit more. And then the other types of education that was available to us were just workshops and content days. And it's great to portfolio build, but then you also need to know what to do with those images. Also, most people are kind of relying on hope marketing, which isn't an actual marketing strategy. And that's basically just making a website and putting your images out there and hoping that people come around to book you. Plus, knowing you have to do something for your business and actually doing it are two separate things. So I found a lot of people are kind of holding themselves back because, and this plays into the next one, they have limiting beliefs about themselves, about money, they're perfectionists, they overthink, they have analysis paralysis because there's so many things that they need to do. So knowing that you have to do things and then actually doing it are just, a lot of people get stuck in that spot of taking the action that they need to take. So, okay. Next slide. So essentially looking back on how I got to the point where I was netting 6 figures as an elopement photographer and then mentoring all these other elopement photographers and figuring out where they got stuck, I created the 6-figure stoke method back in 2020. And my students started by using the 6-figure stoke method. They were able to kind of go through their business step by step, figure out where they were stuck, and then develop a strategy to move forward and unstick themselves and start getting the business that they want, the locations they want, the money they want, all that stuff. So they stopped hoping that someone would book them, and then they actually started getting booked by their dream couples. They replaced their $1,500 elopements with $4,000, $5,000, even $6,000 elopements. I've had a few students book $7,000 and $8,000 elopements, which is just crazy. But yeah, that's what they replaced it with. And several of my students have been able to quit their 9-to-5 jobs. Some of them even have husbands that have quit their jobs to work with them. And yeah, they're starting to make real actual money that can sustain a couple or family. So I'm going to go into now 3 steps. I've basically tried to condense my whole 6-figure stoke method into these 3 steps that I think are the most important and the most overlooked things. When I've worked with people, this is oftentimes the things that they aren't doing. So the 3 steps basically are, step 1 is identifying your target market, and I'll go into that in more detail. Step 2 is driving traffic to your website, which is huge. And then step 3 is actually pricing yourself for profit. So I'm going to go into all of these 3 steps. And again, if you've just joined me, I want you guys to write down questions or drop questions in the chat box, and then I'll answer them after I've gone over everything. Okay, so let's talk about identifying your target market. So there's a lot of different, I use target market because that's what it's often called in marketing books, but this is also known as your ideal couple or your niche. And it's important. And I can tell when I'm looking at a lot of people's websites or social media or the reels that they're creating that they don't have a target market in mind. And it's really the first thing I did to pivot from weddings to elopements only and start to clear 6 figures easily each year was by identifying my target market. I wasn't getting enough elopement inquiries at first because I was really trying to communicate with both wedding couples and eloping couples. And because I wasn't really targeting anyone in particular, I was trying to talk to everyone, but then that means I wasn't talking to anyone. So this is one of the reasons why you hear it all the time. You need to niche down. You need to really figure out who your target market is, write it down, and then have all of the copy on your website and Instagram and everything talk specifically to those people. I also realized I needed to show that I was an expert in specific locations and that I could answer elopement specific questions instead of just kind of being like, oh yeah, I travel everywhere and I just do all these things. And I also realized that I didn't need to convince people to elope. People have already decided that they want to elope and they've decided on the location where they want to elope before they reach out to a photographer. So really they're trying to find a photographer who's an expert in their location where they've decided to elope. As soon as I realized that and I committed to niching myself down, targeting very specific locations and kind of speaking their language, that's when I started attracting my ideal clients. And that's exactly what my students get to. When they're trying to talk to everybody and include weddings and do all the destinations, it's really like you're talking to nobody. So inquiries and bookings fall flat. When you show like, hey, I am niching down on Colorado, I'm a Colorado expert, I know all these things about Colorado, I can answer all your questions about eloping in Colorado, that's when your your ideal couples will be like, dang, this is the type of person I'm looking for. So these are the things that you need to consider on how to speak the language of your ideal couple. And I want you to like imagine either a couple you've worked with in the past that was really awesome, or maybe like some friends that are really cool, and like, you know, what you love about them. And then also, where do they want to elope? Or also, you can also phrase this question as, where are you an expert, or where do you want to mainly work? I really started in Colorado, and then I moved on to Zion, and then New Mexico, and then Moab, and then Sedona. So I've kind of targeted locations strategically instead of just being like right off the bat, I just shoot elopements everywhere, because that isn't what an eloping couple really wants. They want you to be the expert where they chose to elope. And then thinking about what photos they want to see, what activities they want to do, whether or not they have guests, what questions do they have, what problems do they need solved. Chances are they have no idea what eloping is like. So these are the things that you need to consider when you're thinking about your target market / ideal client, and then how to communicate these things to them. And not only is it really important to identify your target market, because if you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one, and you're not going to get booked, la, 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 la. But you need to show yourself and who you are. And like, you know, let's say you want to shoot in Arizona and you're like a big Harry Potter nerd or something like that. Like, you want to attract those kinds of people too. Or if you're shooting around Las Vegas and you really want that like rock and roll vibe couple that are going to do like stuff in the city and then also Valley of Fire or something like that. You want to be able to like show people that and connect with people who are also attracted to that, because it's really important that we pair up basically the right couples with the right photographer. Because I truly believe that client experience starts with your marketing and starts with, you know, being able to speak to your ideal client, attract them, and have you guys paired up. Because if you're pairing up with the wrong people, you're not going to be able to provide the experience that you should be experiencing, compared to if you are just if you're just like vibing with your couples and you have all the same things in common and you have endless things to talk about and stuff like that. So yeah. Okay. So when I wanted to pivot over to elopements, I had to switch everything to talk like specifically about elopements. It was super scary. I changed all my images to be elopement specific. I changed all my website copy to be elopement specific. And it was scary because I was mostly booking weddings at the time with the occasional elopement, but that totally changed my business around. But beyond being able to like attract people, you know, like be able to talk to my ideal client, I had to make a reliable living. I, you know, have student loans from being a vet. I was alone. I didn't have a partner who was supporting me. I had to like make all this money myself. So I needed a reliable living. And that's where step 2 comes in, which is about driving traffic to your website. And this is so overlooked and like the most important thing that you can do. Okay, because your ideal client has to be able to find you. I mean, is really what it comes down to. So, okay. And a lot of people don't know how many website visitors they get every month. You can find it out if you have Google Analytics, or sometimes like your website host will tell you. But I'll tell you right now, if you have less than 500 website visitors a month, then you're riding the struggle bus and you're getting occasional bookings or occasional inquiries, but it's not enough to sustain you. It's freaking you out because you go through a lot of, you know, droughts, you know, like it's kind of like feast or famine. Sometimes when you're an elopement photographer, you'll get like 5 bookings one month and none the next kind of thing. But like if you have less than 500 website visitors a month, if you have 50, 100, 200, then you are very rarely getting inquiries and bookings. Maybe enough to keep you going, but not enough to like make a living off of, or like be able to like 100% guarantee that you can make the money that you need to make. So then obviously the question is like, how do you increase your website traffic? And I really just want everybody to focus on what I call the marketing channel trifecta, which is Instagram, Google, and Pinterest. Yes, there's TikTok and YouTube and Facebook and all these other things. But if you're going to like focus on every marketing channel event, if you're going to focus on all of them, you're going to half-ass all of them. If you can focus on three, there's really a way where you can like combine Google and Pinterest and create, you know, Instagram should be like a community that you create and like your safe place. It should be like a place that you really like to be. So I just feel like you can really streamline these three. And these are the three most commonly used kind of search engines and stuff like that in places where people find wedding vendors. So if you focus on these three and then have more, you know, energy to put into YouTube or TikTok or whatever, feel free, but get these dialed in first. Instagram, I have a whole separate like training on Instagram. I love Instagram. To me, it's not a scary place. It's like my safe place. I have all my friends on there. So I know a lot of people don't like it, but one of the things I really try to teach my students is how to embrace it and how to think of it in a different way. Because this is really where a lot of people will follow you, especially people who are willing to spend a lot of money on photography and eloping. Like they want to find the perfect person for them that's going to click with them, and they want to get to know you, they want to like you, they want to trust you. That's really important, and they're going to want to do these things before they reach out to you. So if you are never posting on Instagram and never letting people see your face or get to know you, they definitely can't trust you, and they're probably going to pass you by for someone that they can get to know. And it's really great when you can get people to trust you and like you and get to know you before they reach out, because then the whole booking process is super easy and amazing. And they're just like, by the time they reach out, they don't care about pricing, they're just ready to book you. Google is the MVP of all. Like, if you're not focusing on SEO, then you have to. This is where I get the majority of my website traffic. It is like a marathon, not a sprint. You know, you have to really take time to get all these things, you know, to start building your traffic, start ranking on Google. But I get a lot of organic traffic through the landing pages I create, the resources I create, the blogs I create. And for the people who, you know, don't want to wait a year for all these things to really like ramp up, and have people start finding them on Google, you can also do paid traffic through Google Ads, which my students have gotten a lot of bookings from. So that's Google. And then Pinterest. What I'll say about Pinterest is basically I've done a lot of research on all the different Pinterest strategies, and there's basically a million different strategies. Everyone says that their strategy is the winning strategy. So whenever that kind of thing happens, I just have to assume that any strategy is a winning strategy as long as you're consistent. So I use Tailwind, which is a website that makes it easy to schedule out pins. And basically whenever I blog something, whether it's a resource, a how-to blog, or just images, I then put it on Pinterest through Tailwind and call it a day. Maybe spend like an hour or two a month on Pinterest. So once I started focusing on these three marketing channels and really put my focus on website traffic and specifically SEO, I was able to consistently book, you know, 6 figures of elopements every year for the past 3 years. And it's basically on autopilot at this point. That's kind of the great thing about having a ton of traffic through Google is, you don't have to, like, if you drop off the face of Instagram for weeks, it's not going to really affect your business. And having, I think I have like 2,000 website visitors a month at this point, pretty much guarantees that I'm going to get inquiries and bookings. So, so by focusing on those guys and getting it dialed in, I stopped spinning my wheels and half-assing all the different marketing channels. I've tried YouTube and email marketing and all these different things. And once I just focused on the 3, then I was able to develop a workflow that worked for me that just focused on those 3. And I don't need to constantly worry where my next booking is going to come from. Even in like the downtimes, because there is like a seasonality to when people book. And right now it's kind of a downtime. I haven't booked anything in a month, I think. And I'm not worried at all because I know it's going to pick right back up. Okay. And then that brings us to step 3, which is you can have all the website traffic in the world, but if you're charging $1,500 for an elopement or less, or, then, yeah, you're just going to burn yourself out. So pricing is something that I could talk about for hours. So I'm going to give you basically the condensed version of what I normally teach. And there's no like, it's not black and white. It's not just like, oh, because of this, you charge this. There's a lot more to it. So I kind of think of these 5 things when I'm thinking about pricing for people. And your cost of doing business is very important to know, because your business costs money yearly and monthly. Every time you book an elopement, that's going to cost you money, because you have to drive there, or pay for an editor, or pay for a hotel, or pay for food or gifts or whatever. So knowing your cost of doing business is super important, and it'll help you, not only create different pricing structures, but it also helps with your mindset. And I'm going to talk more about mindset in a second. But knowing that you have to make a certain amount of money is going to help your mindset when you tell people your prices. But then also, like, if you're freaking out about your prices and you can't tell somebody on the phone how much you charge because it makes you really nervous, then they're probably going to sense that energy and not really want to move forward with you. So, sometimes even if someone's cost of doing business is high, or says that they should be charging this amount of money, we still might start on the lower end and kind of gradually raise you up until you become more confident in your pricing. It also kind of depends on your local market, and more so that, like, I don't want you to underprice yourself, because like markets like Colorado, there's a lot of people charging a lot of money for elopements. And if you charge way less than the other people are going to assume that your quality isn't that great. That's just kind of how people think, like higher price, higher quality, lower price, lower quality, especially people who aren't price hagglers. Like the people who actually wanted to invest in photography and find the value in it, they're not going to see a lower price as a deal. They're going to see it as a red flag. Your value is also really important. And that's like, our value itself is infinite, like just as a person. But what skills do you have? What knowledge do you have? What about your past experience? Like we have all had like different, educations and jobs and stuff like that. So you're going to bring all that to the table, or as you become better and better at being an elopement photographer, your price should go up, right? And then supply and demand. As your demand increases, so should your price, plain and simple. If you're starting to get overwhelmed with how much you're booking because things are working out really well, and you start having some growing pains because your business is taking off, then you should probably charge more money. Okay. So, but yeah, a lot of people, when they start like you can just say, oh yeah, just raise your prices. But there's a lot of issues with the mindset that we have around money, and having more of a scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset. And I've noticed that, especially with my coaching students, like we have to crack through this all the time. It's not just something where you just, everybody is on like a scale, and sometimes there's more scarcity, sometimes there's more abundance. But basically a scarcity mindset, you fear change, you worry that people are never going to pay your prices, that people aren't inquiring with you because of your prices. You don't want to share your knowledge, you don't want to offer help, you think the pie is shrinking, you think if somebody else is successful, that means less success for you, and you probably avoid risks and you think small. Abundance mindsets means that you embrace change. It's so you can see problems in your business and pivot and see it like, okay, I just got to find a solution, instead of thinking, oh gosh, like I'm doomed. You can collaborate, you can share knowledge, you can be generous, you believe the pie is always getting bigger. You don't think that someone else's success means anything against you. You think we're all going to be successful. You think big, you embrace risk, so yeah, we're all kind of we're not like one or the other, and day to day can change, like sometimes I have more scarcity and I have to remind myself like, no, I can get over this, or money is going to flow freely to me, whatever it is. I have to tell myself to be more of abundance minded. So this comes in handy, or like this is critical when we talk about raising prices with people. So Okay. And then this is how I like to break things down when you are paying yourself, because obviously, like, I want you to be like, I don't want you to just like take the leftovers of your business, right? Like a lot of people do that where they're like, yeah, once my business is making more money, then I'm going to pay myself. But really, you have to pay yourself a percentage from the beginning, because your business is just always going to be a money eating monster. Like you're always just going to find more things to spend on, like whether it is workshops or education or whatever. So yeah, so let's say, you get $2,000, like a retainer from a couple, into your business account, then you got to transfer a certain amount into a tax account. You got to transfer a certain amount into your account, which you then pay yourself monthly from, and you invest in retirement and emergency savings and all that kind of stuff. So, obviously this is easier to do as you're making more money. You might start out just paying yourself 5% or 10% if you're in the really early stages of your business, and then kind of increase it from there as you're not spending as much on like gear or whatever you need to do to get started. But yeah, you always need to put a certain percentage towards yourself. And then over time, you just adjust those percentages. And that's one of the ways you can price for profit, because you know how much your business expenses are, how much you have to put towards taxes, which is normally around 5, 10, 15%. And then you pay yourself an amount, and make sure that they are also like in separate accounts. So you can't be like, oh yeah, I have all of this money to spend on stuff, but really you're not taking into account taxes or what you should be spending on yourself. So pricing for profit can be a gray area, but making sure that you're paying yourself a certain percentage, making sure that you have a plan to increase your prices and work on your money mindset. That's all super important. And then if you're driving a bunch of people to your website and talking specifically to your ideal client, all those things kind of come together where you can charge more money and people will see your value and connect with you more and know you and like you and trust you. Okay, so yeah, with my niche dialed in, my website traffic increased, my limiting beliefs about money were all squashed. I was able to increase my pricing to an average of almost $8,000 per elopement, which is pretty crazy. And two years ago, I was still charging, I think my average was still like 4,300, which I was super proud of that. But the more you get things dialed in, the more you can pay or the more you can charge. And I will say that as I've charged more money, my client experience has gotten so much better just because I have the time and energy to devote to my couples. Because I'm not booked, I had a year where I was totally burnt out shooting all these adventure sessions, elopements, all that kind of stuff. And I made good money, but I was so burnt out. I didn't have the creative energy. I didn't have the time to answer all these emails and really come up with like backup plans and personalized things. And I was just kind of like, doing my best at the time, but seeing where I was at then in 2019 to now, like the experience I give my couples, it's like a huge shift. So, so 8,000, it can seem like, oh my God, that's scary. But then, or it can seem like, I know a lot of people have limiting beliefs about money where it's like greedy or something, but man, the experience I give people is so much better. Okay. So with my 6-figure Stoke method, which is a lot about basically like, it's more in these 3 steps, but more in depth. I've been able to help over the past couple of years, like dozens of elopement photographers also start scaling their businesses up to 6 figures or past 6 figures. And, the reason why I'm so passionate about this, or just like why I had to create this, was because like I found myself in the situations that a lot of you guys are in. And it took me way longer, and it was kind of a harder journey for me than I want it to be for you guys. And I don't want you guys, like, I don't want people haggling your prices, right? Like, you're sick of it. Price hagglers are the freaking worst. They keep people basically like dreaming small because they're so vocal about how they think you need to be charging less. Whereas when you like break through this like little barrier where you no longer attract price hagglers and you start attracting the value buyers who just want to get to know you first before they reach out. It's awesome because the value buyers don't haggle you on your prices, but they're quiet and they lurk, and they're nice. So a lot of people get stuck in this spot where they're like, I can't raise my prices because they're so used to all these price hagglers giving them a hard time. But a lot of times it's just your marketing message and your target market and your website traffic and all that. And then you can start getting more of the value buyers and stop dealing with the price hagglers. So that took me a long time to kind of break through that ceiling. And I get it, because that was hard for me to do. And it's hard for a lot of other people to do as well. And a lot of you still don't really understand marketing, and that's okay. Like I didn't understand marketing for a long time, but it is something where, it helps with your client experience. It helps with you get those value buyers that are going to pay you what you deserve. And it helps you kind of strategize and know exactly what you need to do to get to where you want to be. And it's not a dirty word, and it's not about gimmicks. It's actually about being authentic and finding the right people for you. I also noticed to be tired of the occasional booking and wanting your income to be more consistent, because again, elopements, it's a seasonal thing. There's ups and downs. There's seasons to when we shoot. There's seasons to when people inquire and book. And yeah, getting that website traffic up is what's going to make your income more consistent. I also know what it's like to want to quit your 9-to-5. Being a veterinarian was awful. If you followed me on social media, you probably saw me allude to the fact that one of my friends and classmates from vet school just committed suicide this week because that career is so awful. So yeah, and a lot of people have soul crushing jobs, even though they're easy and they're not, as hard as being a vet is, but that's still I don't want people to be in those jobs anymore. I didn't want my friend to continue, but a lot of people, it's hard, right? So I understand, I get it. And then, sorry, I'm getting a little choked up. And then also I understand what it's like where you have all of these resources, but it's like, can somebody just tell me what to do to make this work? Because online courses or Facebook groups, workshops even that are full of just fluff, kind of picking the brain of somebody that like a friend. Yeah, it can be hard, but it's nice to just have somebody kind of swoop in and tell you what you should be doing. So my 6-figure Stoke method works. And these 3 steps, if you can follow these 3 steps with your target market and your and increasing your website traffic, even if it takes paying for ads, if you pay $400 a month for ads, but book $40,000 worth of elopements because people could actually find your website, that's worth it, right? So, so 6-figure Stoke works because you know who your ideal couple is and how to talk with them. You understand marketing strategies and how to implement them. You can dial in your workflow and get that work-life balance. You can increase your prices and make a real living, and then also provide that awesome client experience. And then also the 6-figure Stoke method, if you follow it, the real one with me, then I'm here to help you with everything. Photography business. So my 6-figure Stoke method now lives inside the Elopement Photographer Mastermind, which is a 6-month mastermind for the adventurous elopement photographer that's ready to scale to 6 figures beyond in their business. I've been running the mastermind for over a year now, which is super exciting, and I have had some amazing results. Actually, let me skip backwards a little bit to show you. This was just what happened in the last week. Somebody booked their dream elopement with the sweetest couple in the Dolomites for $9,800. And I had another person who booked a Big Sur elopement and a Glacier National Park elopement, which are 2 of her big time bucket list locations. Somebody else just got their taxes done and had doubled their income and hit over 6 figures, and many of the members hit 6 figures this year. Yeah, and then this girl just had a call where she presented an 8-hour package for 5,700 and was told that that was like a great deal. So this is how communicating your value can be so freaking important. Another girl booked 2 clients over the weekend and made $8,000 in 48 hours. So like people are killing it in the mastermind. These are very, very common weekly wins. So all right, so what is the Elopement Photographer Mastermind? It is a 6-month, basically group coaching program that tops out around 40, 45 people. We have 2 to 4 monthly coaching calls, depending on the month and which guest experts I have. We have a huge business training vault, which includes the entire 6-figure soak method, as well as some additional content that I've added over the year. We have monthly copy clinics with my support coach, Jess, who is an amazing copywriter and my secret weapon. We have after each lesson, you have private material critiques and homework review by yours truly, just as a full website audit. We also have daily support in our Slack community. So, in our Slack community, you have me, you have Jess, you have support coaches such as Jen DZ, who is a Colorado elopement photographer that books 10K elopements on the regular. I'm going to be hiring a Pinterest coach and a Google Ads coach soon. So that by the time you're watching this, that might already be a thing, which is so exciting. So it's an amazing group where not only are you kind of filling in the cracks of your business, but yeah, you're just kicking ass. And it used to be 12 months, but now it's 6 months. So please ignore that little 12-month mastermind thing. You can join it for 12 months if you want, but we start at 6 months and then go month to month depending. So yeah, I want you to ditch the saturated market, stand out in your niche, elevate your client experience, get booked out while making bank, and enjoy the F out of your business and life. So if you want to apply, head on over to meganmcphail.com/mastermind to apply, and I will personally look over your application and then DM you on Instagram to chat more about your business goals. I have a lot of questions. I talk to a lot of folks that are struggling in their elopement photography business. It is very, very common to be on the struggle bus. Um, so one of the common questions is, how much time do I really need to commit to this mastermind? I'm already really busy. And honestly, I am going to reduce probably what you're doing because we are only going to be working on the things that are going to move the needle forward in your business and help you make money. So I've really condensed a lot of the knowledge in there to kind of hand feed it to you so that you can accomplish things quicker than you would on your own and having to kind of like sift through so much knowledge. And so knowing more about subjects actually isn't always the best thing. Like we just want to focus on the things that are going to get you booked. And that's all we really focus on. So a lot of times like you can just devote a few hours, a week to what you need to do and participating in the group. And so really like I will be reducing the amount of time you spend on your business because you will only be spending time on the things that are going to make you money. How long until I see results is another very common question. And that's a really hard one for me to say because it really depends on, how much you work on the lessons and developing your marketing strategy and how well you are at implementing and troubleshooting. Sometimes it's also based on portfolio building. So if you don't have a strong portfolio or if you're completely switching kind of your marketing strategy, then it might take a little bit longer. But I have seen people hit 6 figures in their very first year in business, in their second year of business. I've seen people net 6 figures their second year. So you can see results incredibly quickly. And then I've also seen people drag their feet. And I've seen people not really participate, not really do the things. And it's going to take a lot longer to see results if you're in that boat. Um, yeah, and again, when will I hit 6 figures? I mean, it's very dependent, but again, I have seen people hit 6 figures very, very quickly. A lot of people ask about the investment. The investment, it changes. It's typically going up over time because it's really based on your expected return on investment. So as we are seeing bigger and better results within the mastermind, prices kind of go up. So I'm not going to say the exact investment, but I do have payment plans available and you can get started as low as $500 right now. And yeah, I've seen people who have turned, a few months of a payment plan into, a $15,000 booking week. I have seen people book $40,000 over the course of a couple months. So it is absolutely designed to get your investment back, and typically with just one elopement booking. And I often run well, not often, but sometimes I also run discounts, so definitely check out, if check that out, apply, and talk with me about it. So yeah, I would love to see your application come through. If you're on the struggle bus and you have gotten this far, you do not have to struggle anymore. Chances are, if you are like a huge fan of an elopement photographer, I have worked with them in some capacity. So I would love to help you too, and I would love to see you start making more money and getting booked where you want to get booked and working with your ideal couple so work just doesn't even feel like work anymore. So I hope to see you at meganmcphail.com/mastermind to apply. Thanks.